Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. So before we start off, I just want to say that I've had a few complaints with respects to the audio quality of my videos, so I'm actually using a different mic today. If you guys could just let me know in the comment section below whether you find this to be an improvement or possibly an even worse audio quality than typically, I would very much appreciate it. I'm really hoping this it reduces the amount of complaints that I've been getting. Hopefully my voice is a lot more clear and crisp as opposed to it was before. So with that being said, welcome guys, and today I'm actually going to be taking a look at a Donphan deck. Donphan decks have been very much powerful ever since the release of the Furious Fist set, and I feel like it's still very much a very powerful force to actually be dealing with at the moment, and I definitely foresee a lot of players using Donphan decks in a lot of standard tournaments. So with that being said, we're gonna go right ahead and discuss the Donphan deck, which I think has gotten to be even more powerful with some of the new cards that have been released in the Phantom Forces set. Namely speaking, Robo Substitute, definitely a card that's going to work very well with the synergy with respects to Donphan. So pretty much Donphan, we're going to be using his first attack, which allows us to attack and then switch out to one of our bench Pokemon. So in a lot of instances, we're going to be switching out into Robo Substitute, which pretty much prevents our opponent from taking any prize cards from us. So definitely a very useful card to have. So again, so we're going to be running a total of 4 Phanpies and 4 Donphan. So Donphan, we're going to pretty much be focusing on using his spinning turn attack, allowing us to attack and then switch out to one of our bench Pokemon. Depending on the situation, I mean, you want to switch out to different types of Pokemon. If our opponent's active Pokemon happens to be an EX, we want to switch out into our Sigilyph. If our opponent's active Pokemon happens to be a non-EX Pokemon, then it might be better to actually switch out into our Robo Substitute. So really, depending on our situation, I mean, Donphan is an extremely versatile card, and there's a lot of different combinations that can work with him. So some cards that we're going to be running to help Donphan is, given the fact that Yveltal EX has rock resistance, we're going to be running 2 Zekroms. Zekrom with his Outrage attack can work very nicely with this deck, so we can pretty much deal double the amount of damage to our opponent's active Pokemon, namely speaking Yveltal EXs. So Zekrom, definitely a very nice card to have with Donphan. A lot of synergy between these two Pokemon. We're actually also going to be running some Sigilyphs. Again, Sigilyph and Donphan, definitely by no means a an intuitive combination. A lot of people have been using it now. Safeguard attack, very useful, preventing our opponent's EX Pokemon from dealing any damage really to our Sigilyph. So definitely a nice card that we want to be running a few copies of. So in this case, we're actually going to be running a total of 2 Sigilyphs. Another Pokemon that we're actually going to be running is actually Wobbuffet. I feel like his special is actually very powerful. I've had a user actually convince me into using him in one of my future decks, and I mean, it's definitely not an ability you want to overlook. So say if our opponent's active Pokemon has a special, so for example, if we're facing a Genesect EX, I mean, by bringing out our Wobbuffet, he will no longer be able to use his Red Signal ability to possibly drag out one of our bench Donphan. So definitely a very nice card to have, and I'm sure he's going to come in very handy with respects to a lot of different situations. So Wobbuffet, definitely a card that we're going to be running just 1 copy of, but I still think he's going to be an overall very useful Pokemon and in a nice addition to our Donphan deck regardless. So we're actually also going to be running just 1 Hawlucha. Hawlucha is very powerful with respects to the fact that number 1, he has absolutely no retreat cost, so that makes him pretty useful in case we do attack with our Donphan and then we want to bring out our Hawlucha. We can easily retreat him, and also his Flying Press attack does 60 damage. Again, with a lot of attachments, we can easily bump up that damage possibly to 120. So say if we attach a Strong Energy, Fighting Stadium, and a Muscle Band, so just for a single energy, this Pokemon can be dealing out a total of 120 damage. So very powerful Pokemon to include in this type of deck. Some other cards that we're actually also going to be running is we're going to be running the standard draw support cards. I'm not really going to talk about these. So we're going to be running 1 Colress, 4 Professor Junipers, and 4 Ents in this deck. We're actually also going to be running 1 Bicycle. Bicycle is actually going to be a pretty useful card, I think, in this type of deck. So it might actually be worth considering running 2. Because by using our Karina, we're able to grab one of our rock Pokemons from our deck, and in combination with 1 item card, So I actually really like the variability of different item cards that we have in this deck, such as Bicycle, Computer Search, Max Potion, Switch, Robo Substitute. So there's a lot of things. So Karina is definitely a very useful card to have in this type of deck. Definitely is going to allow us to set up our Donphans as soon as we possibly can, and also our Halucha in case that's a Pokemon that we need to grab. I mean, also we can also use it to grab some Ultra Balls, things like that. You know, just a very, very nice, versatile card to have in this type of deck. Some other cards that we're going to be running as well is Computer Search. Computer Search, one of the major downfalls of Karina is that you're only allowed to grab item cards. So, I mean, thankfully for us, we can use our Karina to grab out our Computer Search, and then our Computer Search to pretty much grab out any Pokemon, any card really in our deck. So, that's why I've actually included this card in this deck instead, as opposed to a dowsing machine. But I mean, Computer Search. As getting back to the Karina's weakness that I was talking about. Karina's weakness is that it only allows us to grab out item cards, so it won't allow us to grab out any supporter cards or possibly even more crucially important, our stadium cards. So Computer Search is going to be the card to sort of cover that weakness of Karina. So definitely I highly recommend you guys run a copy of Computer Search as opposed to Dowsing Machine instead. So we're actually going to be running 2 Max Potions instead. 2 Max Potions as well. The reason for this is that well, again, we can grab it out easily with our Karina, and typically, I mean, our Pokemon are going to get going with a single energy attachment, so Max Potion, we can definitely use it to heal up our Donphan and make life that much more difficult for our opponents. So we're going to be running a total of 2 copies of Max Potion in this type of deck. Robo Substitute I've already discussed. Switch, pretty self-explanatory card, but I mean, pretty much we're going to be running it I mean, in case one of our Pokemon happen to be poisoned or anything like that, Switch is definitely a nice card to have. So we're going to be running 1 copy of Switch in this type of deck. Some other cards that we're going to be running, I've already discussed Robo Substitute. Ultra Ball really doesn't need any discussion. VS Seeker, the type of card that we want to be used with respects to picking up any of our discarded supporter cards. Definitely a very nice card to have. So that's actually why we're only running 2 copies of Karina, because I mean, we can definitely use VS Seeker to grab out, I mean, to use more Karinas or anything like that. So I mean, I think 2 Karinas should be more than enough, especially since we're going to be running a total of 2 VS Seekers in this type of deck. Some other cards that we're going to be running is we're going to be running a total of 2 Lysanders, just generally a very powerful and nice card to have, regardless of the type of deck that you're actually going to be running. We're also going to be running a total of 2 Fighting Stadium cards. You guys might want to increase it to 3, I don't know, but I feel like 2 Fighting Stadiums should for the most part be good enough for us. I don't really foresee the need for a 3rd Fighting Stadium, but again, it's really sort of a personal decision that I made. You guys might want to actually swap out a Mystery Energy for this, but speaking of Mystery Energy, so given the fact that our Donphan is pretty much going to repeatedly attack and switch out, attack and switch out, Mystery Energy, I feel like it's definitely a card that's going to become to be more useful than Floatstone in a couple of situations. So one of the situations that I'm referring to is the Garbotoad situation. So Seismitoad EX is extremely annoying. I definitely foresee him being used by a lot of players in the current standard format, and I like, I mean, every other battle or so that I've actually been facing other players with respects to the current standard format, I almost always come across a Seismitoad EX user, so I highly recommend using a special energy just in case, because I mean, if our item cards become pretty much nullified and we no longer have the Floatstone attachment to our Sigilif or our Wobbuffet, then Mystery Energy is the next way to go. I actually don't, I really think that this card is definitely going to come in useful in a lot of situations, so we're actually going to be running a single copy of Mystery Energy. I mean, speaking of retreating, we definitely want to include 2 Floatstones. This is pretty much to get our Sigilif or Wobbuffet out of the action slot, just so we can bring out Donphan again and repeatedly pound away at our opponent's active Pokemon. We're also going to be running 3 Muscle Bands, 4 double colorless energy, 4 strong energy, and 4 fighting energy. So that's pretty much the deck layout, guys. So with that being said, I'm gonna go right ahead and see just how powerful this deck actually is. I actually haven't tested it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be a very useful and very powerful deck to deal with. I actually was recording slightly earlier, and I don't know, my recording software just stopped, so I'm actually, this is the second time around I'm recording, but hopefully we just see how powerful this type of deck actually is. Alright, so it looks like our opponent is probably running Seismitoad EX deck right off the bat. We can see the water energies and the enhanced hammer with the Garbodor, so it's yeah, definitely, absolutely he's running a Seismitoad EX type of deck. So I don't know, I feel like we're still going to perform pretty well against it. I feel like Donphan's a very powerful anti-Seismitoad EX type of card. So looks like our opponent's going to go right off the bat and start off with his Trubbish. So let's go right ahead and attach a Fighting Energy to our Phanpy, and with that let's go and end our turn. Okay, so definitely we are going to be facing an annoying Seismitoad EX deck, but I feel like for the most part Donphan is pretty effective against Seismitoad EX, so definitely a deck that a lot of players are going to be using. So I really wouldn't be surprised if our opponent's actually grabbing out his Seismitoad EX just to bring him out nice and early. And no, it looks like he actually went for an N. But yeah, it seems like our opponent's definitely running some sort of Garbodor combination, and he's going to try and discard our energies. But unfortunately for him, he actually gets a Tails. Okay. So I don't know, if our opponent actually doesn't get a Seismitoad EX, we may be able to win next turn. If I actually, and it looks like our opponent quit. I mean, this battle was way too short, guys, so I'm actually going to go right ahead and do another battle right now. So let's go ahead and find ourselves another opponent. And also, while we're just searching for another opponent, I do want to tell you guys, huge thank you to Bulbasaur32227. He gave me a lot of cards that I actually needed to build this deck, so I highly recommend you guys do check out his forum tournaments in the PvP discussion section. It's called Team Bulbasaur, so guys, do take a look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something fun to play, just because he hosts a lot of tournaments and there's a lot of competitive players. So in case you guys are actually getting bored of the typical standard format, just facing random opponents, I highly do recommend you guys do check it out. So sorry for the shameless advertisement, guys, and now let's go right ahead to discussing this this battle. So our opponent looks like he's running a Pyroar type of deck. So I mean, luckily for us, we are running a Donphan deck, so really shouldn't be giving us a lot of trouble. So let's go in Bicycle Perfect. Looks like we actually grabbed out a Strong Energy, and with that, let's go right ahead and end our turn. Okay. So I'm probably going to use a switch and bring out our Phanpy as the active Pokemon next turn. I mean, if our opponent doesn't get any bench Pokemon, okay, good. I didn't want this to be a very quick victory once again, but yeah, it looks like our opponent's definitely running a Pyroar base type of deck with in combination with Mewtwo EX and possibly Charizard Combustion Blast as well. But I feel like this is going to be a pretty easy victory for us. I mean, Donphan is a very effective counter Pokemon to Pyroar. So I definitely don't foresee our opponent standing much of a chance, in all honesty. I think it's just generally speaking a very poor matchup for him. So let's go right ahead and switch out into our Phanpy. I'm going to go and attach a double colorless energy to Phanpy and then Professor Juniper and hope that we actually grab a Donphan. So it looks like we didn't, but luckily for us, we do have the Ultra Ball at hand. So I'm going to use the Ultra Ball to actually discard a Karina. Let's see. Actually, I'm actually just gonna go right ahead and discard a Karina and the and the double colorless energy. So let's go right ahead and grab out our Donphan. Probably going to be using Professor Juniper relatively soon. I mean, I definitely wanted to have this other rock energy as well, just so that our Donphan's Wreck attack would actually be loaded up and ready to go. So let's go right ahead and bring out Donphan, and then let's go and attack for a total of 60 damage to knock out that Litleo, and then I'm gonna go right ahead and bring out our Robo Substitute. Okay, and there we go, and we are going to go right ahead and grab a prize card. Okay, so if our opponent actually doesn't, let's see, just trying to think right now. So if I were to use the Wreck attack, I would only be doing actually 160 damage right now because I don't have any muscle band attachments. But I mean, if I am actually able to grab a muscle band, I would be able to knock out that Mewtwo EX in a single attack, which I may actually go right ahead and grab with the computer search. But I mean, yeah, actually I'm probably gonna go right ahead and do that. and then I'm probably going to go in Professor Juniper again for a new set of cards in our hand. So I mean, Donphan definitely an incredibly powerful Pokemon. I definitely foresee a lot of people using Donphan type decks. Okay, so I don't know, our opponent using somewhat a atypical Pyroar type of build. I don't really see a lot of Pyroar users actually running Suicune, so I'm a little surprised to actually see him. But I mean, Pyroar is really not a worrying sight at all at the moment, just because our Donphan can relatively easily deal with Donphans. I mean, sorry, with Pyroars. Okay, so looks like our opponent's going to bring out our Donphan, and I'm assuming he has a double colorless energy to try and deal a lot of damage to our Donphan. But I guess not. It looks like our opponent actually used an N, so not really sure it was the smartest decision for him to bring out his Mewtwo EX as the attacking Pokemon. Okay, and it does look like our opponent does get a double colorless energy, so yeah, it's going to be dealing a lot of damage to our Donphan, but unfortunately for him, he actually won't be knocking us out. So I'm actually just going to go right ahead and kill the Mewtwo EX. I mean, unless our opponent actually gets any blacksmiths, he won't be able to attack our Donphan. I'm not going to actually place Wobbuffet to the bench right now, just because I definitely want to start setting up some other Donphan. So I'm actually going to go right ahead and discard our Wobbuffet, and I'm going to go and grab a strong energy just so that we can knock out that Mewtwo EX with our Wreck attack. So let's go right ahead and look for that. Okay. I'm going to go right ahead and attach it, and then I'm going to go in Professor Juniper. Really hope that we actually do get another Fanphy in our bench. Okay, so we don't per se, but you know what, I'm gonna go right ahead and discard an N and also a double colorless energy just to go and set up another Fanphy, just so we can evolve him into Donphan and really start doing some damage again. And then we're gonna go right ahead and destroy our opponent's Mewtwo EX. Alright, and looks like we're gonna go and grab out two prize cards. I actually forgot, I didn't actually need a strong energy because the stadium card was actually there as well, so I miscalculated a little bit. I should have probably just gone out and grabbed a standard fighting energy instead, but you know what, it's okay. I mean, really not too big of an issue right now. Unfortunately, both of our fighting stadium cards have already been discarded, but our opponent is not actually running a lot of EX Pokemon, so yeah, I mean, it really shouldn't be that big of an issue. And it looks like our opponent does have a blacksmith, so he will be able to knock out our Donphan this turn. But I mean, I'm gonna be able to set up the other Donphan next turn, so then I'm going to start bringing out the Robo Substitute to pretty much waste our opponent's turns with respects to him being unable to draw any prize cards. So let's go right ahead and bring out our little guy right there. Gonna go and evolve him into a Donphan, and then I'm actually gonna go and use the Karina to grab a Muscle Band and another Fanphy as well, just to try and get that line going. So let's go right ahead and grab a Fanpy, and let's see, a Muscle Band. Okay, and yeah. Alright, so let's go right ahead and attach a Muscle Band to our Donphan, place that Fanphy down, and then go and hit for 60 damage, and let's go and bring out our Robo Substitute. Okay, so I mean, Donphan's definitely a very powerful Pokemon to deal with. I mean, the one thing that I actually really wanted our previous opponent to not have quit, because I wanted to show you guys just how effective Donphan decks can be against Seismitoad EX decks, because I mean, a lot of players are actually going to be running Seismitoad EX variants. I mean, there's absolutely no question about that, and I feel to a certain extent Donphan can deal with Seismitoad EX relatively well, so it would have been nice to face an opponent like that. But I mean, our opponent is actually going to be running a Pyroar deck, which is generally speaking a pretty poor matchup, given the fact that we are running a lot of evolution Pokemon just to begin with. So kind of unfortunate for our opponent, but definitely a good sort of matchup for us, because I mean, Pyroar is definitely very powerful and a very troubling Pokemon to deal with if you're running certain types of decks. Okay, so I'm not really sure what our opponent's thinking right now. I mean, the match is pretty overwhelmingly in our favor. He's actually not going to attack our Robo Substitute, but thankfully for us, our Robo Substitute, we're actually able to discard him at any time. So let's go right ahead and do that and bring out a Donphan. I'm gonna go and attach another Robo Substitute, and then I'm gonna go and use an N hopefully so we can get another muscle band and knock out the Pyroar, or just something more useful. So let's see, and unfortunately we don't, but that's okay. So we're gonna go right ahead and use a spinning turn attack and bring out our Robo Substitute once again, and luckily for us we can replenish our Robo Substitutes because it seems like we keep getting him at hand. So that's very nice. Our opponent's Suicune is more or less useless just because we're not running any EX Pokemon whatsoever. But I mean, unfortunately for us, our Donphan does have water weakness, so if our opponent actually does load up his Suicune, he could pretty much one-hit KO our Donphans, but I don't actually know if our opponent's running any type of water energies at all in his deck, or if his Suicune is more or less a stalling type of Pokemon. Okay, so it looks like our opponent may actually be running some water energies in his deck, because I mean, otherwise I don't really see why he would attach a double colorless energy to his Suicune unless he is just going to be using it as sort of a retreat Pokemon. Okay, so what? Our opponent's using a Karina in his deck? That absolutely does not make any sense, because he's not running any rock Pokemon at all. So Skyla would definitely have been a better choice for him. Really, I'm befuddled by the types of things that our opponent's actually doing right now. So I mean, I really don't know what to say right now. So okay, let's go and discard our Robo Substitute again. Unfortunately, we're only able to deal 40 damage at a time, but you know, it's okay. We are still slowly pounding away at our opponent's Pokemon, and let's go ahead and bring out our last Robo Substitute. So after this, I'm probably going to be forced to start bringing out my Zekrams, just because they have a lot of HP, and hopefully I will be able to grab out a Float Stone, because otherwise this might be a very dragged out long type of battle. Yeah, so it does look like our opponent's actually going to grab out a water energy. Okay, so he actually does run water energies. If he has a Lysander, unfortunately for us, he would be able to knock out our Donphan, and it doesn't look like he has a Lysander at the moment. But then again, he probably does have a few Pokemon catchers, so that's something to look out for. Hopefully we can knock out that Suicune as soon as possible before he actually knocks out our Donphan, and it does look like he's unfortunately going to be knocking out our Donphan this turn. So I'm going to go and bring out the Robo Substitute for now, really hoping I can get some sort of draw support card, such as a Professor Juniper, or yeah, Professor Juniper. I really don't want an N, because I mean, it'll only allow us to get a total of 3 cards, so that's not particularly useful. So let's go right ahead and bring out our Robo Substitute. Okay, so thankfully for us, VS Seeker seems to come to the rescue, and I'm probably going to go ahead and grab out our Colress just to draw more cards. So I'm gonna go right ahead and place the Sigilif down. Let's go and grab a Colress, because I don't want to discard the cards in our hand. And yeah, I definitely think Colress would be the wisest choice right now. So let's go right ahead and use that, and thankfully for us, we do grab out a Donphan. So let's go and place the Donphan with a strong energy. So that's more than enough to knock out the Suicune. I'm not going to give him a muscle band just yet, and then I am going to go and discard our Robo Substitute, bring out the Donphan, and I'm not actually going to attach a Float Stone just yet, in case our opponent does have a Startling Megaphone. And with that, I'm gonna go right ahead and bring out a Zekrom and draw another prize card. Okay, so thankfully for us, we do grab out the other Fanphy, so I'm gonna start loading him up as well. But I mean, this is a relatively poor matchup for our opponent, so it should be a relatively easy victory for us. Okay, I mean, I'm almost positive that the main reason that our opponent actually did run Suicune is pretty much because he knew that Donphan was going to be a troubling matchup. But I mean, unfortunately, one Suicune is by no means powerful enough to completely counter a Donphan deck. I mean, maybe if he was running 2 Suicunes, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it doesn't really look like our opponent is going to be winning or anything like that soon. So luckily for us, we are going to be able to retreat our Zekrom next turn by using the Float Stone, and we're probably going to be able to knock out that Pyroar, because our opponent looks like he's going to try and set up another Pyroar just because this Pyroar only has 10 HP remaining. So pretty unfortunate for our opponent, but I mean, there's not much he really can do. Okay, so let's go right ahead and attach a Floatstone to our Zekrom. Let's lay another Fanfi down, and I'm going to go and attach a Rock Energy to the Fanfi at our bench. Let's go right ahead and retreat Zekrom and perform the one-hit knockout on our Pyroar. And once again, let's go right ahead and bring out a Zekrom and draw another prize card. Okay. So I mean, if our opponent actually does manage to evolve his Litleo, which I'm assuming he will, his if he deals out a lot of damage to our Zekrom's pretty much going to be able to use an Outrage to knock out our opponent's Pyroar. So I mean, we should be able to win next turn, regardless of what our opponent actually does. Yeah, so it does look like he's actually going to bring out the Pyroar, but okay. So okay, he's actually using a Scramble Switch. I don't really know what he's thinking right now. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's thinking I actually won't be able to knock out the Litleo this turn. But I mean, by attaching a Muscle Band to our Donphan, we will be able to knock out the Litleo. So unfortunately for our opponent, this looks like it's going to be our game, unless he's actually evolving him into a Pyroar. But okay, yeah. So I think we're going. Yeah, so it looks like we're gonna win the game. Good game. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do comment. Please do comment below whether or not you guys actually prefer the audio quality now as opposed to before. And thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.